The hard thing about losing stubborn belly fat is it's often the last place you lose it, yet the first place you gain it back. And if you're watching this video, you're probably like me, you store some fat around your belly, maybe your love handles or even your chest, and you're feeling a bit confused. You're not feeling confident in your clothes, you don't like the way you look in the mirror, and you're wondering, how do you lose it? You probably are aware that nutrition is foundational to this, but you nearly feel you need a PhD in nutritional science with all the information online, and you're feeling a bit confused. So in this video, I'm going to essentially break down 3 stages of losing the belly fat. First of all, stage 1 is how to get to 15% body fat. So for a lot of you watching, you're probably anywhere from 25 up to 30% body fat, and the first thing you should focus on is getting to 15% body fat where you've got a flat stomach, you feel a bit leaner, you feel a bit more confident in yourself. Stage 2 is going to be how to get from 15 to 12, and then stage 3 is how to get from 12 to 10 or even below. For anyone who does not know me, my name is Adrian McDonald. I'm an online transformation coach. We help busy working professionals over the age of 30 lose body fat, increase their confidence, and make fitness part of their everyday lifestyle. Okay, stage 1, how to get to 15% body fat. So I'm going to use our metabolic priming diet we implement with our clients as an example. Our metabolic priming diet is a science-backed way to help you lose body fat, but the key is while maintaining muscle mass, because what a lot of people do is they lose weight very quickly through fad diets or quick fixes. But what they don't realize is a lot of the weight they lose is actually muscle and not body fat, causing them to turn skinny fat and slow down their metabolism. So our metabolic priming diet, the 3 pillars are, first of all, eating predominantly single ingredient whole foods, 80-20. Why is this important? Because the ultimate goal of losing body fat should be to eat as much food as possible to stay as full as possible for long while staying within your calorie deficit. And a good way of doing that is consuming more single ingredient whole foods. So for example, if you have 200 calories worth of strawberries, that's over 600 grams worth of food. If you have 3 Oreos, it's the exact same number of calories, but much less volume of food. The problem with overeating hyper-processed or hyper-palatable foods is that, number 1, they're not very satiating, but number 2, you're actually going to crave and you want more of the junk food afterwards. So one of the biggest things we coach our clients on is eating more single ingredient whole foods. You don't need to look at an apple and see what are the ingredients in this. An apple is just an apple. However, apple juice may contain elements of an apple, but it's also got tons of added ingredients. Now, does that mean you cannot include some of your favorite foods? Absolutely not. If you need to get to 15% body fat, you can still eat some of your favorite foods like breads, like pasta, like chocolate, like cereals and so on. Just keep that within 20% of your calories and get the other 80% from whole foods. Now, pillar number 2 for metabolic priming diet is having a plant and a protein at every single meal. So starting out with a plant. A plant is a fruit or vegetable. What we recommend for our clients is eat at least 2 servings of vegetables per day, where half of your plate consists of veggies, okay? Something at lunch and something at dinner. And then 2 or 3 servings of fruit as well, things like berries, apples and so on. Now, the reason having a plant at every meal is important is because this is going to increase your fibre intake. And fibre is one of those foods that will first of all improve your digestion, but secondly, allow you to eat a lot of volume of food for not a lot of calories. And again, going back to point number 1, the ultimate goal is to stay as full as possible for as long as possible, and having lots of fibre is a good place to start. So we generally recommend our clients aim for at least 30 grams of fibre a day, which 2 half plates of veggies and 2 or 3 servings of fruit should get you there. Now, we also need to have a source of protein every meal, but the type of protein you consume has got to be important. You need to consider the calorie to protein ratio. So for example, if you have 10% steak mince, okay, that's going to be roughly 175 to 180 calories per 100 grams. If you have less than 3% fat steak mince, that's only going to be about 120 calories per 100 grams. So you can literally save hundreds of calories by having leaner source of protein. So I would avoid, or at least try to minimize, proteins or fattier cuts of protein like sausages, like bacon, like lamb and so on, and eat leaner source of protein, things like chicken, turkey, white fish, salmon, lean steak mince, eggs and egg whites, protein powders and Greek yogurt. The reason all these foods are effective is because they've got a good calorie to protein ratio. I mean, you can eat quite a lot of them and get quite a lot of protein for quite a few number of calories. So for example, if you have 50 grams of protein from a chicken breast, that's only going to equate to about 250 to 270 calories. That is so much protein for not many calories at all, which is why it's a fantastic source. And then the final pillar for metabolic priming diet is then eating within your calories, okay? However, if you have more single ingredient whole foods, if you have a plant and a protein in every single meal, it makes staying in a calorie deficit much, much easier. Now, for you watching this video, you're probably wondering, how many calories do you need to consume to lose body fat? Okay, there's so many calculators online, but one of my favorite targets is just whatever your body weight is in pounds, multiply that by 10 to 12, and this will give you your daily calorie target. So if you're quite active and you move quite a bit, I'd multiply your body weight weight in pounds by 12. If you're more sedentary, you're maybe older, you work at a desk job, you don't move a whole lot, I would multiply your body weight by 10. So for example, if you're 180 pounds, okay, your body weight times 12, that'll equate to 2,160 calories. Your body weight times 10, that's going to be 1,800 calories. So generally speaking, body weight in pounds by 10 to 12, that's a really good framework to go off in terms of how many calories you need to consume. Now I should have mentioned this in the past part with the protein, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So again, a 180 pound guy, that's going to be 180 grams of protein. Now for a lot of people we coach, they're often at between 25 and 30% body fat. So to help get them down to 15% body fat, we don't even ask them to count their calories meticulously. For some clients, we just implement our 3-4-1 plate method, which essentially means 3/4 of your plate comes from protein and fiber, okay? So imagine how your plate is a clock, okay? Half your plate veggies, about a quarter, or even a bit more protein, and then the remaining quarter, that's going to be carbohydrates and healthy fats, okay? That's a very, very simple way to structure your plate without counting your calories, okay? And again, getting from 30 or 25% to 15% body fat, it does not mean you have to cut out your favorite foods, eating out at restaurants, or eliminate or reduce your social life completely. You can still have a bit of fun along the way, but if you do those 3 things, okay, eat mostly single ingredient whole foods, have a plant and a protein at every single meal, and then stay within your calories, you will get there over time once you are consistent. Now you're probably wondering, how long will it take to get to 15% body fat? Well, it's likely you need to reduce your body weight by at least 15%. So a good target to aim for is to lose your 0.5 to 1% of your body weight per week, which means that can take anywhere from 15 to 30 weeks if you've got 10% body fat to lose. In fact, my client Daniel, so he got to about 15% body fat and it took him about 20 weeks. Aidan, my client also, it took him roughly 20 weeks. And then my client Johnny, he was at the higher 30 or the mid 30 range, I would say, maybe 33% body fat. And to get him to 15% or even below, this took us 7 months, okay, which is roughly 30 weeks. Now, to get from 15 to 12% body fat, you need to be a bit more dialed in. So the first thing that I recommend is you start tracking your calories using apps such as MyFitnessPal, where you can essentially find out how many calories you consume and how many grams of protein, carbohydrates and fats. And speaking of carbohydrates and fats, okay, phase number 1, just going from, we'll say, 25 or 30% body fat to 15% body fat. If you dial in those 3 things from the metabolic priming diet, particularly protein and calories, it should get you there. However, going from 15 to 12%, you also need to consider your dietary fat and also your carbohydrate intake. Starting out with dietary fat, aim to get at least 20% of your calories coming from dietary fat, okay? This will be really important for your hormones and reducing inflammation. So good source or healthy source of fats, this will include things like salmon, sardines, chia seeds, avocado, Brazil nuts, walnuts, almonds, nuts and nut butters to a degree, just be careful of the portion sizes there, along with things like coconut oil or olive oil. Oh, and also of course, eggs and lean steak mince, okay? So at least 20% of your calories from dietary fat, trust me, don't go below 20%, your hormones will not thank you. And then when it comes to carbohydrates, so carbohydrates, your carbohydrate timing in particular is going to be important. So what we implement with our clients is our high-low method, where we essentially cycle your calories, or your carbohydrates particularly, based around your activity levels. So if you're getting after in the gym, okay, and you're training quite hard, have your biggest carbohydrate meal pre-workout and post-workout. Pre-workout to fuel your performance, post-workout to aid with your recovery. As well as this, sometimes implementing refeed days where your carbohydrates, you increase them, we'll say 1 or 2 days a week, can help to wash off some fatigue. So one of my clients, Tamim, okay, he got to around 12% body fat. He was training 5 days a week. So what we did is 2 refeed days a week, on a Tuesday and on a Friday after his leg sessions. And this just helped him wash off fatigue, okay, cycle his carbohydrates properly, and help him get to a really, really lean 12% body fat. And then finally, stage 3 is getting from 12% to 10% or even below, okay? To be honest, we don't really have many clients in this category, so I'll use myself, my own best example. When I competed in bodybuilding, I got to single digit body fat. And I would say for a lot of people, it's probably not worth it getting there. Personally speaking, I love being around 10 or 12%. That's where I look good, I feel good, I perform good. When I got below sub 10% body fat, my performance suffered in the gym. I had absolutely no libido. I had an unhealthy relationship with food. Literally, I would eat a meal and all I'm thinking about is 3 hours time for my next meal. I just became a bit too obsessed. And that can happen when your hunger would really increase, your performance will decrease, your libido, your sense of drive, that all just tends to go away. At least for me it was. So to be honest, it wasn't very enjoyable. Furthermore too, what I found is that if I got to sub 10% body fat, it's like social events, all those occasions, you got to be pick and choose. It's like, you know, you'd have to really question going for dinner. If you did, you have to research the menu beforehand. And just for a lot of people, look, I'm not going to say if you want to do you, absolutely go ahead. But I think for a lot of people, staying within 10 to 12% or at least sub 15% is going to be more sustainable. But with that being said, if you do want to, you know, try out and see what it's like to get to sub, we'll say 10% or even below that, okay? What you need to do is, first of all, really dial in your calories, okay? That's going to be super, super important. Your meal timing also becomes really important, okay? And often what I would say is like, the difference between going from 12 to 10% and we'll say sub 10%, it's just like, it's the effort and it's the time and it's the consistency, okay? To lose that last 3 or 4%, okay? This could take anywhere from an additional, you know, 2 to 3 months easily. So it's just more so like eliminating or reducing social events, not having much of a social life, tracking every calorie meticulously to the gram and being consistent. Now, regardless of what stage you're on, okay, whether you're on stage 1, stage 2 or stage 3, one fundamental aspect of your coaching program is that you actually do some form of progressive strength training. Now, a lot of coaches have different forms of training. For us, what we incorporate is metabolic resistance training. So you have powerlifters, they like to lift heavy. You've got bodybuilders, they love doing pump work. You've got cardio guys, they love to run. What we often find is that like a lot of our members, they want to look good, they want to feel good, but they also want to have the fitness levels to run a 5K, run a 10K, or just not feel breathless carrying in the groceries, or, you know, just playing with their children in the evening time. So the style of training we incorporate at Mac Lifestyle Fitness, it's almost like this hybrid style of training. We do some mobility work so you can actually be functional, you can move pain-free. We do some strength work because you got to be strong, and people like just taking pride in their lifts. We do a bit of pump work and bodybuilding work so you have a nice muscular physique, but also some cardio too, so you're not just the guy that looks jacked but your breath is going out of a flight of stairs. And what I recommend anyone watching this video is at least 3 strength sessions a week. Full body workouts can work well for 3. If you're doing 4 times a week, you can do workout splits like upper, lower. 5 times a week, something like an upper, lower, push, pull legs. But again, just make sure the strength training is your main course, cardio can be your appetizer, and then sprinkle in things like mobility maximizer work, and, you know, maybe if you want to do more max effort strength work there too, absolutely no problem at all. So I'll just use one of my clients as an example. One of my clients, Darren, he got to about 12% body fat, I would say, but he was able to do this while absolutely loving the process in the gym, okay? He got to 170 kilo hex bar deadlift. He was doing that for reps. He did a barbell back squat, 20 reps at 100 kilos. He was doing weighted chin-ups, and he was also able to run as well, okay? That's a classic example of metabolic resistance training where you're able to lift, you know, a decent amount of weight in the gym, okay? You look good, you feel good, but you're also able to run, and you've got a good base element of fitness. Okay, so finally, just to recap in the video, we just spoke about the 3 stages of getting to 15%, 12%, and then 10% body fat. For most people, the first thing you want to focus on is your metabolic priming diet. Eat mostly single ingredient whole foods 80% of the time, or 80% of your calories, 20% more fun foods or processed foods. Have a plant and a protein every single meal, and eat the right amount of calories for you and for your individual goals. Okay, then for stage 2, just start tracking your calories, carbohydrate timing, and then dietary fat, 20% of your calories. And then for stage 3, get into, you know, 10% or below. That's where you got to track everything to a gram, reduce or eliminate a lot of your social events, and just really stay consistent. But wherever you are in the journey, it's more than likely you're at stage 3. What I just would say is like, just be consistent. The actual effort of doing this for, we'll say, doing a workout or, you know, following the diet for one day is not nearly as hard as just being consistent. And for a lot of people, they've got an all or nothing mindset, okay? They go really hard for 2 weeks, but then something happens at the weekend. You have a takeaway, you have a night out, you have you meet some of your mates, and you just press the effort button. You think that because you've had a bad food, okay, that you just may as well go off track, and you essentially go from a 10 to a 0. Our most successful clients, they're not perfect, but they always focus on making progress. So once you do not quit, okay, sooner or later you will get there. And I hope you found this video helpful, and hopefully you got some value from it. So if you did, please make sure you subscribe. And if you want one-on-one coaching with essentially your own customized plan, all laid out on top of one-on-one coaching calls, one-to-one WhatsApp support, and one-to-one feedback from my team and I'll just post a link for my application form in the bio. You can schedule a call with myself or a member of my team to see if you'd be a good fit. But that is all for this video. Hope you found it, and please make sure you like and subscribe.